Good morning, everyone. My name is Lori Lytle, and I'll be hosting Mortgage Coaches Training Thursday. So today's training, what we're going to be doing is going through to develop a FHA 203K product, as well as building a silent second. So for like those CHAFA loans, I'm in California, any type of down payment assistance programs. So this way we'll be able to show you how you'll be able to enter these in Edge. We'll also discuss when we go into the products. We'll be able to talk about that down payment assistance, go through the payment breakdown. In our closing costs, you can see we have the down payment, but where is that down payment coming for the silent second? So we'll be able to show you when we go into the fee details. I have a line item here for the down payment assistance. So that down payment is offsetting the fees as well as the down payment. It's not offsetting the fees, offsetting the down payment there. So that's what we're going to learn today. But not only that, what I want to do is also show you how to build an 80-10-10. It's not a type of product that would really compare against an FHA 203K or a silent second, but it's the same type of thought process. And this way they're putting 10% down, and then they're having a second with 10%. So they avoid that mortgage insurance. So with that, we're going to show you how to not only build the first, but add that second lien. So not only will we build the first two products, we'll also learn about how to build that silent second. So before we continue on, what I would like you to do is open up your question area. And with that, go ahead and let me know where you're from, because I also like to round out the call at the end talking about APIs and product templates. Because with those product templates, it will help you really get through building that product once you have brought it over from Optimal Blue or any of the other APIs, Nexus, Velma, things like that. So if you could please open up your question area, John, Nadine, and go ahead and let me know where you're from so I'd be able to direct that to the questions on that aspect and to see if you're on an enterprise account. So with that, let's continue on. And what I want to do is do a little housekeeping, and then we're going to go ahead and continue with our training. Mortgage One Michigan, no, you're not an enterprise, John. If you have access to Optimal Blue, let me know, because at the end I was going to show the API with Optimal Blue. It just gives you an idea if that's the case. So with that, let's go ahead and first thing I want to do is bring you over to Mortgage Coach. This is just our website, and I just want to point out this is quick ways of accessing a lot of our data that will help you. So in membership services, you have our coaching call archive. So all our Tuesday coaching calls are archived, as well as this training Thursday. So after today, we do have this recorded. You can find it in our coaching calls. Quick ways of logging into your Edge or RateWatch account. Also want to point out under Connect, you have our community as well as our calendar. So besides our training Thursday, every day of the week we do have different trainings. Training Thursday is a little bit different because we work on more of the fundamentals of Mortgage Coach Edge. So with that, that's why we're going to be focusing on building the FHA 203K as well as that silent second and the 80-10-10. So also, I want you, as we go through, send me any kind of questions at all, and we'll address that through our training. And I can go back in screens and answer questions, so don't hesitate at all. So on our calendar, just want to point out Mortgage Coach University. We have a great set of trainings. It's a series of 3 weeks, first 3 weeks of the month. Don't have to attend them all, but really go into them, and you can deep dive by clicking the link and seeing what's offered with Mortgage Coach. So if you're curious what type of presentations you could build with Mortgage Coach, and different items such as widgets, things like that, look at our university and look at the topics here. So you can see how we focus the first week on purchase transactions. 8 a.m. Pacific time we have 101, and 11 a.m. Pacific time we have our 102, slightly more advanced than the 101. So you could take a look at all the different things you could do with Mortgage Coach, sign up for it, attend it as you are able, and that will also help your Mortgage Coach education. So now what we're going to do is build our presentation. So with that, first off, I want to, when we're talking about the silent second here, I want to point out that I had gone to a Cal uh, um, housing agency website. And this is where I developed the program. Basically, they have an assistance program that will provide a 3.5% down payment assistance. So that's what I'm using for our fee. So with that, let's go ahead. If you're following along and want to build this presentation as well, log into your Mortgage Coach account. Go to edge.mortgagecoach.com. And with that, it will bring you to the sign-up page, and go ahead and enter your login credentials. If you're not quite sure of your password, always email us at support@mortgagecoach.com, and we'll be able to assist you resetting that password. So with this, I want to point out the home screen. So this is your home screen in Edge. In the upper section here is your client area. These are your client-facing reports, the total cost analysis, the rent versus own. So this is where you build those borrower-facing presentations. The lower half here is our partner presentation. So this is your open house presentations and a seller buy-down presentation. So with this is co-branded, and it will have your information as well as the realtor's information in that partner area. So with that, when we build our total cost analysis today for the FHA 203K, what you could do is a lot of the tools you're learning building the TCA are the same tools that you use in building open house presentation. So as you start learning Edge, definitely dive into the open house presentations. We do have trainings on those as well, and build your relationships with your realtor partners. One of the items we're doing at the end of the call is working with product templates. So before we start building our TCA, I want you to go into settings. So in settings, we have multiple tabs. You want to make sure your contact information is correct. Just go down here, make sure your phone numbers, make sure you have an identifier in front of your license number. And if you are on an enterprise account and this is grayed out, you just need to contact your administrator or email us at support@mortgagecoach.com and we can assist you. Any changes, press save. We get a lot of presentations coming through support. Remember to upload your image. Very important. You want to have that representation on your presentation for that borrower. So now I'm going to talk about fee and product templates, and this is how we're going to round out our call coming back to these two screens. So you build your fee templates here, and this is, John, for not having an enterprise account, this is what an individual would have to do on their own. If any of you who are on an enterprise account, or if you're not sure, either put it in the question area or email us at support. But enterprise accounts, the corporate office can build fee templates and product templates for you. So you have that option. So to go through this, what I want to talk about is when we build the presentation, I could show you how you could develop a fee template from creating the presentation, as well as product templates. But I also wanted to show you, after you modify those, this is the area you would want to go, and if you need any kind of changes, this is where you would update your templates. And if you ever want to build additional templates, all you have to do is once one's built, lower left-hand corner, Save As, that's your copy button. So it's a quick way to copy a fee template to a brand new fee template and just modify it. If you originate in multiple states, you can go ahead and build your fee templates based on state. So again, the more rounded out you build out your templates, the faster it will be building your presentations. So now when you come to the product templates, this is what is going to really speed you up if you had an API. We also have a basic Fannie Mae Import 3.2. It only brings one product, and it is just the basic information. But templates like this will help and assist in that process. So how you could build your product templates is, I have one here built for Optimal Blue, and that's what I would work with my API. And let's go ahead and update my spelling. Okay, there we go. So with that, when I have a file come over, my rate is brought over, my interest rate, because it is a pricing engine. It's one item I don't want to override, so I leave that empty. I also want to keep the down payment percentage, so I leave that empty. But an item that doesn't carry through on your API is your prepaid interest, so you want to default that. And it also doesn't have reserves, your monthly costs. So we want to have templates to build your monthly costs. Also, the two tabs over toward the right, you have your monthly cost here. you would be able to default your monthly hazard and property taxes. So if you're working with an API or not, this is how you're going to speed up your process going through Mortgage Coach. It's just to be able to have those already in there, have the number of months reserved. You don't have to touch it, just apply the template. Mortgage insurance, same thing. So with FHA products, you could build it out. If you have an API, we'll ignore whatever you build here because it's important to bring over or keep the data that came over from Optimal Blue. You can always, or whatever API engine you use, but you can always go ahead and override it if need to when you go into Edge. So that's what we're going to focus on. I know it was a lot of description in the beginning, but it's going to really speed you up through developing presentations, as well as learning about FHA 203Ks, silent seconds, and 80-10-10s. So let's go ahead and start building our products. So with that, to start a new product, you would just want to click on New. So go ahead and click on New if you're going to go ahead and follow along with me. And what I have done is I have developed a presentation right here that we have viewed, and we're going to have the data on the screen. So you could go ahead and fill in this information. Why I'm talking about this on the data. So with that, you want to go ahead and put in your own contact information here. Point out the two radio buttons up at the top. You have an individual or marketing. So with that individual, you see it has all the borrower 1, borrower 2 contact information. Pushing it to a marketing, it's just a report headline. It just makes it a little simpler to view. So either way, you have the contact information. And then just for those of you who are new, you do have a partner email address for email alerts. They will be sent to the partner as well. Or if you have a loan officer assistant, you can always put their email or a processor, anyone who's assisting you. Friendly name field is always good to put something here so you know how to reference back to the presentation. We also have a great copy feature, so if you have a product or a set presentation you want to keep using, great way of identifying which one it is. Moving on, so we have it. We're going to mark it as a purchase. In the goals, I went ahead and just put a purchase price of $300,000. And when we get to the products, we'll discuss that a little bit more on that 203K. I'm just going to go ahead to leave the affordability screen empty for now because we're just focusing on products. We do have an introduction to Mortgage Coach on Mondays at 9 a.m. where we dive deeper into these fields. So want more information, go ahead and attend our 9 o'clock Monday introduction to Edge. But first, want to point out, this is your tax bracket. If you want to show a tax benefit on your presentations, this is where you put it, your tax bracket. If you're not quite sure of the tax bracket, we have a button here that will take you to a website that would help you assist you with that estimate. Tax credits, want to point this out since we're doing 203Ks and those type of products, down payment assistance. If you have products with the MCC credit, we have those fields as well. So you can show a product with and one without to really show the advantages of that credit. So let's go ahead and move on. I'm also going to leave this affordability screen empty as well. This is just data contact fields. And now we're into our product building. So you can see how really quick, if you just use the minimal amount of data, it was just your borrower's name, friendly name. I marked it purchase, put in my purchase price, and really you could just jump to products. That's how quick it could be. And now when we develop the product templates, it's also, and fee templates, it will also speed that process up. So with the 203K program, and I'm going to say it right up front, don't use these numbers as qualifying numbers, if anything like that. I'm just using these as examples. You know what the qualifying and that type of information. So with this product, the house is being sold actually for $250,000, and they're going to have $50,000 in rehab costs. So what we do here, the workaround for that is we jump the purchase price to $300,000, because that way it will then base the loan amount on that aspect. So we have $300,000, which is $250,000 plus our $50,000 in rehab expenses. We play our down payment, $10,500, and our system will go ahead and calculate that base loan amount. Apply your interest rate and term. And the one item I missed as we went through is upfront premium. With upfront premium, you want to make sure it is marked as an FHA, because when we get to the closing costs, the upfront premium field will show. If you mark it VA, we'll display VA funding fee, and same with the guarantee fee for USDA. For those of you who have already built product templates, you can always use a product template for FHA. If you're on an enterprise account, you might see quite a few templates looking like this. You could pick those. Product templates defaulted, the style will default your mortgage insurance. So if you already have templates, you could go ahead and use those and carry down that information. But we will develop the template based on what we have here. So now as you advance the screen, and just to point out, anytime you advance the screen, that always stays the data. So now you'll see how I have this field, this screen all filled out. First off, point out the upfront MIP field. So just open up the percentage and then place the 1.75 for the upfront premium, and you'll see that'll calculate that dollar amount. Choose to add it to your loan amount or not, but you have the option here. One of the default items you want to default is your prepaid interest, because you do want to provide that as an estimate. And with that, that will be part of your defaults. That doesn't carry through on an API, so it's a great way of placing it. And now let's go and discuss closing costs. So with the closing costs, this is how you want to develop fee templates. So if you're on an enterprise account, you could go ahead and open up that drop down and see if you have any fees developed for you. If not, just follow along with us and we'll show you how to develop those templates. So you can see how I have quite a few in there. If you originate multiple states, you could go ahead and provide multiple state templates as I showed you in the settings, and then you select, and then the list will narrow down. So with that, you can see how I already have my fees built. It's actually quite simple in building fee templates. If you could go ahead and raise your hands, let me know if you've already built template. Actually, if you need help building templates, go ahead and raise your hand. It'll show me how much time that I need to spend on this topic. So if you don't mind, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll assume you've developed fee templates already. I don't see any hands raised. Okay, then I'll go ahead and assume that the fees have been built, and we'll just discuss adding down payment assistance as well as the 203K fees. And if you do want assistance on fees, go ahead and put it in the question area, and I'll go ahead and address it more. So with that, you'll see I already have fees developed. And with that, I don't have any 203K rehab fees listed here, and I apologize for that. But want to point out, if you click on Add Fee here, you could go ahead and add fees and develop your template. So say if you've already have an FHA template, a lot of enterprise accounts have strictly FHA, but not 203Ks. So you can always pull it down, just like I have pulled down a fee template. And then if you look in your drop down, we have quite a few fee descriptions for that 203K. So you could go ahead and add the additional fees and the dollar amount. Make sure you would apply if that fee is an APR or not, and then you can continue on. And as you build the fee templates for that 203K, when you're done, you want to save it as a template. So you see at the very bottom right, click Save as Template, and you just provide the name of 203K and whatever state, and you'll have that for any future product templates and fee templates. So if there's any questions on that, we could discuss that a little bit more. When we go into the silent second, I'll show you how we could place in a down payment assistant in your fee area. So once you're done, you go ahead and apply it to loan. And next, you can see how all the fees would total up for you. And now in the next screen, we go ahead and apply our monthly costs. So depending on your area, you could go ahead and develop a hazard insurance. I open up the percentage just to provide the percentage. I'm in California. I use 0.35 and 1.25 for taxes. So this will be defaulted. And then you also want your reserve number of months. This will change as you go out throughout the year, but go ahead and put in just the basic average that you usually have. I've been seeing 2 or 3 months of hazard insurance collected, you know, whatever it may be for your taxes. So I'm just placing 2 and 4. Even when you use a product template, you could go ahead and modify it. So even if it changes to 6, You can modify it real quick either through the template or through the data input. Also market 12-month premium. So with that, once you've developed that one product, you want to save it. So this way you could go ahead and save it as a template. And what I'll do is go ahead and put in today's date so we can know that it's today's template. And then we'll clean this up and we'll use it for our Optimal Blue demonstration in the end for the API. So I went ahead and saved it just to talk about MI on FHA loans. Depending on your LTV percentage, this one's 3.5, so I have 0.85. Calculate MI balance. This is very important because this will lower your APR as well as that payment stream. So you need to have that for FHA or USDA loans. And minimum number of months, FHA carries it life of the loan, so make sure you put 360 here. Done with that 203K product. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the question area and we can always come back to it. So now let's focus on the silent second. So in this particular case, they're actually purchasing a home for $300,000, 3.5% down, but they have also a 3.5% down payment assistance. So with that, we're going to go ahead and just build our product. So I went ahead and put in my purchase price, what my down payment will be, and then we have our base loan amount. Apply your interest rate and your term for that product, and then we'll advance our screens. And if you're building the product with me, you'll see how the graphs are being built at the same time. So you can also see the DTI as well as your loan to value ratio and the payments as they're being built. So again, prepaid interest, I went ahead and defaulted 15. Let me go back one screen. So with that, couple different ways I also want to point out. So we went ahead and developed our silent second. We put in our sales price, down payment rate, and then upfront premium. Since we already built an FHA product, you also can use that copy from feature. So if you haven't used this, this really helps in copying one full product to the next product and then just making the slight modifications. So what I can do is go copy from, and then I could copy from that 203K program. So if I do so, I could go ahead and press OK. You see how it copied the rate over? I'm going to go ahead and modify my rate. But because I'm comparing a sales price of 300 to 250 plus 50 for rehab, that's my comparison. So I was able to do a quick copy, have that information. But what's nice about doing that copy from, I have the same set of fees, and then you can always modify it. So 3.875, advance to my next screen. My upfront MI also copied. If not, just if you didn't use the copy feature, just put 1.75 in. If you're going to add it to the loan amount, place in your prepaid interest. Also, if you hover your mouse over that, it will go ahead and show you the dollar amount. And then let's apply the closing costs. Wanted to point out through that copy from feature, you could see how it copied, and I had added that 203K inspection fee, so it copied my current product. So it copied everything over. You would then modify your fees if it's different. In this particular case, I want to remove my 203K. And the reason why you bring it over, you have your base amount of fees. That's a quick way of creating templates as well. Copying it from one product, you have your fee template. And now let's go ahead and add that down payment assistance. So with that, you want to build a custom fee. So if you want, go ahead and click on Add Custom Fee. And with this, you could go ahead and label it however you like. I'm just going to go ahead and use Down Payment Assistant. And I want to make sure I have that marked as prepaid. And the reason you want to have it marked as prepaid is because this is not a cost to the loan, and we do not want to include it in the 5-year costs. So that's what this is, prepaid, default prepaid means. This also is for any kind of escrowed items. So if I mark this, press OK. Now that fee that you just created, that custom fee, will be in your drop down. So you can use it on future loans. You'll see that I have the PPE marked. It was defaulted. And you can see another example of PPE, your tax reserves. So help you out. Those aren't costs to getting the loan. So now that I have my down payment assistance, the way to be able to credit against the down payment is we want to enter it as a negative. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and enter it as 3.5% down. Quick way of doing it. You can also go ahead and place it as a dollar amount and place it as a negative. We also have options that I didn't point out. If you go into Add Custom Fee, you can also indicate that percentage based on the loan amount or the sales price. So you have either or. So with that, so we applied our down payment. So we'll have that negative 10,000 being applied to the closing costs to offset that 10,000. Once we apply it to the loan, you'll see that we have now our prepaid escrows bump, but that is the closing cost figures. And now let's go ahead and discuss monthly costs. So with that, our monthly costs went ahead and carried over. And since this is a FHA loan still, I'm going to keep the 0.85 as well as the 360 and Calc MI on balance. I don't have to do anything for my reserves or the premium. Those carried over with the copy. So that, and plus your defaults, you can see how it's going to move quite quickly through Edge. So with that, that's how you develop the silent second. And now let's go ahead and talk about the 80-10-10. So this will be slightly different than the down payment, but I want to be able to provide that information so you know how to use those products as well. So advancing to the next screen, I put in the title 80-10-10. And so what we're doing here, we're using the same sales price, but we're coming in with 20% down. So we'll no longer have mortgage insurance, and we'll use a second lien to cover 10% of that cost. Next, we want to go ahead and put in the interest rate and the term. And since I'm using a nice clean number, if you, really quick, if you put 10% down, you can always get that down payment amount rather quickly, or for the 10% for your second lien. So let's go ahead and put that back. Advancing our screen to the next is our fee templates. So with that, you would want to go ahead and place in your prepaid interest days, go into your closing cost details and select a conventional product and apply that fee template and make sure you apply it to the loan. Moving on to the next screen, you have your monthly costs. You can see here I made sure that the mortgage insurance has been removed, so we have no MI on the product since it's 20% down. I am collecting my reserves, so I have that also marked. So if you want to go ahead and put in your hazard insurance, property tax, as well as your reserves. So we just developed 3 products. We developed product templates as well as fee templates. And I didn't tell you how to develop a product template, and my apologies. At the end of every product, you'll see Save as Template. With that, if you click on Save as Template, you can always save that data that you developed. So if you develop that 203K with all those defaults and the fees, go ahead and save it and you can use it on the next time. Go ahead and cancel that. Here's your second lien. I marked it yes. And in your next screen, you put in your 30,000, 5%. This particular case, I'm doing a 20-year loan at a fixed rate. If you have any costs, you could go ahead and add costs, and you can add up to 4 products. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 3 and just continue on to our analysis screen. So when we get to the presentation, we talk about the presentation, we're going to go ahead and also come back to the analysis screen to discuss goals. In a goals, when you're talking to the borrower, how long do they plan on being in the house? 3, 5, 7 years? Because that will all help determine what product they use. Long-term analysis also provides a lot more details, and we'll discuss that when we get to the presentation. Remember, you always can use the reinvestment strategy screen to apply monies to principal as well as investment accounts. Also want to point out in that you can also reinvest mortgage insurance. So we have that, or lump sum payments. So there's multiple ways you can use our reinvestment strategy, and if you want more information, we could cover it at the end of the call. Just place it in the question area, and I'll go ahead and we could touch base on that a little bit. Moving on, before I leave the screen, you have your total interest in MI, net worth, total principal paid. So now the next screens are just pretty basic screens. You just want to enter your contact information here. Contact street information will display right below your borrower's name. If you want to use tag names here, you can sort of do that, and it'll just be in the top center of your presentation. We're doing the total cost analysis. Want to make sure that's marked. This is where you can uncheck products. So if I didn't want to show that 80-10-10, I unmark it and it will not display. So I'm going to leave it this way right now so we could just compare the two FHA 203K to a silent second FHA product. Make sure you always include payment notes in this area. Payment notes is just something easy as estimated taxes and insurance are included in your payment. It's a compliance piece. You'll see on the presentation how we'll have an asterisk with the payment pointing to this notes. Not only that, you can add a little additional notes too if you want to add any comments toward the borrower. This is a great way to add it, and I'll show you on the presentation where that'll display. So next you just have the three screens that will just take you through the graph presentations, as well as if you wanted to change sidebar text. But you can always hover your mouse over any of these ribbon tabs, and when you see jump outs, you can always go directly to that screen opposed to going left and right arrows. So I want to go to our very last screen, preview. And in our preview, this is where you want to place your quote date. With that, just open up the calendar, place your date, and then you also want to do everything from an email link. We do have the option to print and save it as a PDF. Both those options are in the email link. Use this. Always send the link because the link is always updated. The data, the numbers, it is live, and the borrower will see any updates. If you print it or save it as a PDF and send it to them, you would have to keep doing that and keep taking some of your time out opposed to having that live link. So now let's go ahead and take a look at our preview, take a look at our presentation. Remember, we excluded the 80-10-10 from the presentation to start, so you can see how we only have two displaying. So with that, you can see we have our FHA 203K product comparing to our silent second. You'll notice that I'm able to highlight. In presentations, when you see a clear all button at the very base, that clears out highlights, but that's also a quick way to tell you that this is the loan officer's copy. The loan officer's copy allows you to highlight, and all I'm doing is going over a field, left clicking. I can open up the payment stream, view the payment stream. You can see how I have MI for the life of the loan, so I know I have my FHA product entered correctly. But also after we do this, you'll see how highlighting and opening up the payment stream or the more info, how that works with Edge Live and how you'll be able to reach out to your client that way. So just remember, clear all button. It's your preview copy, the loan officer's copy. So besides your payment stream, right below that, you'll see the payment notes. You'll see the asterisk next to your payment, and that lets it know that it's the full pity payment. You can see we have additional text. If you want to put a little additional information to the borrower, you have a little room to do so. Going up to the more info button, this is where you have quite a bit of details. It breaks down your payment breakdown so you can see what the P&I payment is, as well as those monthly costs. Going to your closing cost screen, this is where you have that down payment amount, your LTV, lump sums of your fees, as well as your upfront MIP, but we have our details. So if you click on fee details and you develop fee templates, this is where the fee template will display. You'll notice that the fees are in alphabetical order. That is one of the TRID requirements. It's just easy for the borrower to be able to view their fees. Going to the down payment assistant, want to point out the fee details here. Here is the down payment assistant line that we added with that negative $10,000 to offset the down payment. You'll notice that it's also marked prepaid escrow. If you use the reinvestment strategy, this is where your reduction payment would be, and you'd be able to discuss this information with your borrower as well. So I want to point out, when we come back to your monthly payment savings, when we add the 80-10-10, you'll see that the second lien will display here. It's a great way just to do a quick shot of your first and your second lien. So we'll see that when we do our 80-10-10. And now let's talk about our savings over 60 months. In this area, this is the savings of your unrecoverable costs. A lot of people think it's 43 times 60, and that's not what this represents. So let's open up the More Info button and just understand what that short-term savings is. So what we do is we total that interest and mortgage insurance, if applicable, over that 60-month period. So we accumulated those numbers, totaled them, and then we add the closing costs. This is where you have those PPE fees, the down payment assistance, or any reserves. They're excluded from this area. So this just shows the true closing costs. Once we have those totals, we then total cost of each of the products, and that's what we do our comparison with. So it's the comparison of the unrecoverable costs, which also provides the better savings to the borrower. And if you want me to review that one more time, go ahead and put it in the question area, and I could go ahead and review that. So you can see with this product, the FHA 203K versus the Silent Second, that they're saving about $371 over the 203K. And this is how you would be able to determine which. You can see that the fees are pretty much even. It's really that interest and mortgage insurance that is different. So this is a quick way of seeing why the cost of that product is high. Is it the fees? Is it the interest, or MI? And then down here in our long term, we're just showing the long-term interest and MI paid over that 15-year period. So you can see how much it has been paid. And again, through that More Info, you have a lot of details. At the 15-year mark, we show you what the home value would be if you use the appreciation rate. We also provide the loan balance, how much is due at the end of that 15th year, how much they have in equity, total principal they paid, total pity payment. So a lot of little details in that long-term interest area. So now how does that tip percentage and the 5-year cost? Want to point this out because with the first year lien tip, this is just the percentage. This is just your interest rate number. This is how much interest is charged over the life of the loan, the full 300 term of the loan. So this is 360. So you can see the difference really quick on that. This is a great way showing the comparison for ARM products, how that interest rate goes. Just a moment, I have a question. Let me, after this, let's discuss tax bracket, Edward, at the end. So let me go ahead and go back into this, so, and I'll follow up with that question. He had a question on how to show the net payment using the tax bracket option. So with that, so first, lien tip, percentage of interest over the loan. So you can see that really quick, and that only focuses on the interest rate, no fees or mortgage insurance. Then you have your savings 5-year costs. So you can also see the comparison of that, and that's the interest MI, how much fees were paid, and this also does not exclude any contributions. So if you have contributions offsetting fees, your 5-year costs on your loan estimate as well as on the TCA here will not exclude those costs, because they want to show the borrower the true cost of loan without the contribution shown. So little bit of information there. So let's go ahead and start changing these. So with the 60-month area and the 15, you can change these based on the goals. And now we're going to start working with Edge Live. So with that, let's bring back the second lien product and work with Edge Live. So what I'm going to do is hover my mouse and choose Select Report, because that's the screen that has my products in it. So I'm going to go ahead and mark it as an 80-10-10. Remember, you have to advance the screen to have that product display. That's your save button. So what I'm going to do is go to my share button. See how my 80-10-10 popped up? I'm getting the link to my presentation. I'm copying it. You also have a quick way of emailing it now from your desktop, so I want to point that out. I'm going to open a new tab. So you can see how I placed the link in the tab, and I apologize for not having my mobile. It wasn't connecting with GoToMeeting today. But with that for the desktop, you can see how the borrower, if they clicked on the link, they have to click on I understand. This is your disclosure information, and then they view the report. You'll see at the bottom center there is no clear all button, and the borrower is unable to highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and split my screens. I'm going to go ahead and take this presentation, and I'm going to place them side by side. So this way you can really view how Edge Live works, how you can highlight and really drive the presentation with the borrower and hold that conversation. So let's go ahead and minimize this as well. So with that, you can see how at the very base, the clear all button, and there's no clear all button on the right. So the loan officer's on the left, borrower's copies on the right. And let me go ahead and drop in the chat box the link to the presentation as well. If you want to follow along on understanding Edge Live, click on that link and you'll see me drive the presentation for you. You'll see the view that I have on the right-hand side. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and clear out all my highlights. And you can see how if I hover my mouse over the title of the product, if I click on it, the whole column. So if I was talking about the 203K, I can highlight it, and you can see how on the right-hand side, it just highlighted for the borrower. I could clear my highlights. It will go ahead and clear it on my as well as the borrower. We can open up more info, and you can see how when I open up to talk about that monthly payment, it drives the borrower's presentation as well. You can highlight that payment, the P&I amount, as well as that second lien amount. You can see how we have that P&I there. You can also point out to the borrowers the mortgage insurance, how there is no MI on that second lien. So you can see how easy it is to use Edge Live. Not only does it drive the presentation on a desktop, it drives it if the borrower is viewing on the mobile as well. And you also have the option of driving Edge Live on your mobile. So, and we do have a Wednesday mobile call, so if you haven't done that, you should attend it, 11 a.m. on Pacific time. Great way to really use that mobile device and use our apps. So with that, you can always click on fee details to talk about that down payment assistant. And you can see how I opened up the fee details. And if I click on a fee, if I'm discussing it, the highlighter will also drop to that fee. So you can be able to discuss any items within that. So not only with Edge Live, you have the information to be able to highlight and drive the presentation. You can also change information. So let's go ahead and go into Edge and let's talk about goals. So say your borrower was planning to move in 3 years. What is the best option? So I'm going to open my screen just a little bit. I'm going to go back into Mortgage Coach, go back into the analysis screen, and change my goals. So my short-term goals is 60 months, so let's change it to 3 years. You also, if you wanted to see what it looked like long-term over 30 years, you could go ahead and do that as well. Remember, any changes left to right to make sure that that data has changed. So now when you look at the presentation, you'll see that both of them will have their numbers updated shortly. And with that, you can see how it updated the borrower's presentation as well as my presentation. So now you could show them at the 3-year mark which is the better product. Especially when you're working with ARMs, you might want to change your short term, jump it out over an ARM change, making sure you show them once the ARM change, what's the effect. But again, if they're moving in 5 years, 7 years, they might not be around when that change occurs. So this is how you work your goals, be able to change it, just to have those discussions with the borrower and really make sure that they pick the right presentation. You want to remove a product when you're in Edge Live. Again, really quick, you just go ahead and uncheck it, advance the screen, and you can see not only will it update on yours, it will update on theirs as well. So it's a good way of having products like that as you're talking with them. If you believe that you know there's a great product, but they didn't ask for it, just keep it in the wings and then bring it out as you're holding that discussion, and it's already prepared. So it's a great way of also delivering it to your borrower. Okay, let me go ahead and show you tax bracket real quick. Edward, if you go into assumption, nope, affordability, can't afford, this is where you enter the tax bracket. So with that, let's go ahead. I'm going to use 28% because I do want to cover the OB real quick in the end. But if you're not quite sure, again, tax bracket, it will take you to a website that will show the tax bracket information. So once you advance the screen, let's go ahead and look at our mortgage coach presentation, because what you're going to see, it's going to modify and it's going to add that tax benefit into the presentation. You see it just displayed right here. So with that, you have your payment breakdown as well as your tax benefit. How that changes on the presentation is your short-term area. So if you click on the More Info button in your short term, you now have that additional line of tax benefit. So with that, what it is before we had taken the interest and closing points and found out our total cost of the loan, now we have a benefit and we need to offset the costs. So once we've totaled the interest in MI, we subtract out the benefit, and that's what the total cost is of the loan. So that's how we use the tax benefit here, and to be able to also provide an estimate of a monthly tax bracket or a monthly tax write-off. With this, again, it's an estimate. People file taxes differently. It just be able to provide, especially new home buyers, a great way of being able to understand that benefit. Until they're in a house, they're not quite sure how that is. Perfect, Edward. Also let you know, if you have first-time home buyers, not only can you provide this TCA, you could switch it to a rent versus own rather quickly by just going to Edge, going to Client, switching it to rent, and there's only one additional screen that you would need to update, and it's just information for rent. What this does is it provides you two presentations and two presentation links. So I'm just putting in a couple. Say I have renter's insurance. So now if I go to the presentation, go to preview, I have to put a quote date because there's a whole new presentation separate from my total cost analysis. And now I have a rent versus own that shows that tax benefit on it. So you have two ways of providing that information depending on your borrower. So want to be able to show that one real quick? I'll just create it. Let's go back to own. Okay. So what I'm going to spend just the last few minutes on, let's go into our settings, show you where those product templates are, clean up my product template. I'm going to show you how an API function works. So with the settings, let's find my product template I saved today. We'll just pick a template. How's that? Okay, so when you bring up a template, the one thing that when you save it from when you create a product, it will save your interest rate. You don't want to save an interest rate. Just go ahead and delete it out, because interest rates change, and especially with APIs, you want to make sure that you save the rate that carries over. So with that, you want to go ahead and just use your product template. Clean it up. So you clean up the interest rate. I'm going to keep the down payment. You can also remove that too for the API to keep it with the API. Moving down, again, you can also remove the upfront premium. Again, we would ignore it, but just to make it quick for API. You want to default, make sure your percentages are in here. Again, if it's your choice, we will ignore it. If you did provide us any of this information, we go directly on OB. These dollar amounts will not display, but if you want to just clear them out real quick, you could go ahead and do so. Let me just clean mine up so you can see it. And there we go. And then I press OK. You can also see closing costs. If there's items that are always variable, you can always leave those empty and fill them out as you create each product. So with that, let's go ahead and go into my Optimal Blue account to show you that process. And I'm using this OB fee template, so which has it already developed for me. So let's go ahead and log into Optimal Blue. Let's bring in a new site. And again, there's many other APIs that we do have. So if you're not quite sure, go ahead and email us at support@mortgagecoach.com and we would go ahead and assist you with that. Let's see. Let's see if it's going to come up. Maybe it's a tease. Okay, there we go. Let's open up my screen, make it a little bit bigger for you guys. Okay, there we go. So if you do have Optimal Blue, when you log in, it's quite familiar. I'm just going to go ahead and just skip over these kind of items. I do have a file here that I'm going to select. It's just an area to provide the data. We do have a selection criteria. I marked it as conforming. I want to see 30-year products, fixed and ARM, 5-year ARMs particularly, and I'm going to submit. So now the pricing engine is going to go and get those rates for me and I can make my product selection. Once I make that product selection, it will then create a presentation. So these are the products I qualified for, and you can also go into the details so you can look at further pricing and pick from within. So you can see I have additional items here in my coach column. So what I'm going to do is just pick a 30-year product and then an FHA. Oh, it seems like only fixed rates. Let's just go ahead and bring in 2 products over. And then you press the Mortgage Coach button here. Once you press the Mortgage Coach button, it will then provide our presentation. So you can see how it's partially built. And now you need to go into Mortgage Coach, modify the titles because they're large. And a lot of APIs also have that. You have to shorten those titles. And most companies' APIs, the fees do not carry over. So you would need to go in and add your fees as well as those monthly costs, because monthly costs, hazard, and taxes aren't in the pricing engine. So then what you do is just log into your Mortgage Coach account and your file will be there. So if I log into Mortgage Coach, whoops, the file that I had just transferred will be in my home screen. And you would just click on it and then modify it. So you can see my file for George is right here. And that is from 820. So if I go into View All, you could do a search. And if you don't see it, what this just does is provide you it will search all your files and it's not bringing it back. So you can see it here. You can find a file through here. Also, I mentioned you could copy a file. You can open up the gray area. Here's your file. And you have that copy function over in this area. But that also resorts the files. If you go into it and your file would be right here, you would just go ahead and click on it and let's go ahead and show you what carries over. So you can see how the name carries over. It's purchase a new home. And my sales price carries over. But look at my products also carry over. So if I go into my home, this 30-year fixed product, you would just go in and update the title. I'm making a 30-year FHA. And now what I'd want to do is go ahead and sorry, I'm having problems with that. There we go. Okay. Let's add the product template OB. And you can see before we do, we have 6.25 interest rate. I have a term. You can see my rebate carried over. So I have my costs here, no prepaid interest, and then no monthly costs. So to speed up your process, my Optimal Blue, I do have MI carrying over, and we also develop fees. So you can see how my fees carried over, but not a lot of people have fees carried. So with that, all you have to do is select your product code, and it was set for an FHA, but you would select the product, that template you built, but you can see how the rate stayed. Your MI would have stayed if it was brought over. But you could see how if you go into your closing cost details, you would have your fee templates brought in, so you wouldn't have to key those in, and you would have the monthly costs. This would all populate from your templates. So you can see how if you use an API and you use your product templates to include your fee templates and your monthly costs, you can see how that could speed you up through that process when you use APIs. So again, if you're unsure, please just contact us at support and we can let you know if we support the API you use and assist you there. So with that, if there's any questions, please put in the question area. Let me know. I'm going to go ahead and stay on the call for a few moments to answer any questions. Thank you for attending Mortgage Coach Thursday. While I'm waiting to see if there's any questions, remember there's the help button in the upper right-hand corner that takes you to our Mortgage Coach Support Center. This is where all our video tutorials are. Not only that, there's a search engine. So if you have any kind of questions at all, especially in the evening, over the weekend, say you had a question on 203K, you could go ahead and put it in that search field and it will bring up all the video tutorials related to the 203K product. So that would be able to assist you in learning Mortgage Coach. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stand by. If there's any questions, you want to know anything, go ahead and put it in the question area, and then I'll go ahead and address those questions. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. You're welcome, Edward. Okay, it looks like I don't see any questions coming in. I'm going to go ahead and stop the call. Again, thank you for attending, and let us know how we can help you. Support at mortgagecoach.com. Thank you.